Good morning, brothers, sisters, and seekers of every nation, tribe, and tongue. I'm out again. This week. I've been visiting North Carolina, looking at the homes and stuff and things like that. The homes are very, very beautiful for a very affordable price. Kind of crazy how, if I compare it to where I live, it's like, whoa, huge difference. And you're gonna hear me shuffling around. Excuse me. I am getting ready to leave today, so just getting myself together. But I wanted to talk about something really quickly. So a young man that I know out here, he's a realtor actually. He's the one who showed me around and stuff like that. But the whole point that I'm getting ready to mention is, my goodness, how people's perception of Christianity is so torn and so warped, and how the word of the living God tells us to be quick with a response, a defense of the faith. And it just has me thinking about how one of the reasons why we have to be so defensive of the faith, why we have to be equipped with knowledge and equipped to combat lies, because a lot of people believe lies, and I'm going to go into some of the lies he believes. But one of the reasons we have to be on our guard, and we're defending the faith. Why? Because the faith represents God. That's why. That's who we're representing. So we have to be representing him in truth. And what makes me upset is how the misrepresentation of the faith has tainted it so badly. And so it just had me thinking, one is the misrepresentation of the faith that has it tainted so badly. And the other thing is misteachings, or, teachings along the way, or misteachings is one thing. I'll even go so far as to say, not being taught very fundamental things of the faith, and not being taught things, the educational part of it, like the background information, the history, understanding the Judaic law and things like that brings it all to the new covenant and the New Testament, or excuse me, not even the New Testament, but brings it all to the new covenant. Okay, and brings it to salvation, and brings it to how it all comes together like one beautiful story that has unfolded. How most Christians, dare I say most, can't even stand on that because they don't even understand it. And because, it was that innocence there that just said, I believe, and that's beautiful. But by the same token, you have to have
GPS signal lost.
Oh, I don't even have a GPS on. But anyway, by the same token, you have to be knowledgeable, because that's the way you defend the faith. And hold on, I gotta grab something. Okay, got it. So anyway, let's go into this conversation I had with this young man. He's older than me, but still young, relatively young. So one, he was in prison for 17 years, but that was a while ago. And he was a Christian. So how the conversation came up was, what did he say to me? He said something about Christianity. So I'm already diving in. Quick. I'm already diving in, right? Like, hold on now before you say too much. I said, I'm a Christian. And he's like, okay, but how did you become a Christian? So here we go into this, because they assume that if you're born into Christianity, and I'm not, but they assume that if you're born into Christianity, this is just something that is fed to you. This is just something that you're just, you don't really know anything. You're just going with what you've been taught, okay? Which is not necessarily true. For maybe some people are, just born into it and they never went, they never became personalized. But that's how I explain it to him too, is that Christianity is not something you can be born into. That's not how this works. He said, well, I was a Christian. And I said, no, you were not. I said, Christianity is not something you're born into. Christianity is something that is a literal decision. It's a confession of the mouth and a belief in the heart. And so we had that argument for a moment. You know how you can feel it's getting tense, right? And so then we began to talk about, because he's trying to disprove me, he's trying to debunk me, but he's also thinking I'm ignorant, which I'm not. So now he's up against a wall because he said, I've studied world religions. I said, so have I. He said, no, I have this book. I have the same book. I have the same book. He goes in to say certain words. I'm already saying it before he does. Right? So now it's like, oh, okay, she actually knows what she's talking about. And so I have to, so we're going into it, and then he's like, so you say you're a Christian. I said, I am a pure Christian, because he started to talk about, just the different things that they relate to Christianity that's not actually Christianity. Then he brought up the Klan, because obviously I'm out here in the South. He brought up the Klan. I said, what does the Klan have to do with Christianity? They were never Christians. Well, they think they were pure Christians. I said, but they can't think that, because nothing, I said, give me one behavior of the Klan that's biblical. One, just one. Everything is antithetical. Everything is anti-biblical. Therefore, you can't be a representation of something you're not. It just doesn't work that way. And so, obviously he can never give me that answer, but he says, well, what does he say? He says, what did he say? Because of course, we're always going to get, and that's why I'm saying the misrepresentation of Jesus. It's so played out now. It's so played out, and God is going to judge that. He's going to judge you, and you content creators, because that's what you are. And some of y'all are finally admitting that's exactly what you actually are. You just do things for the content creation perspective, so you don't really care if you're harming the body of Christ or not. But you always putting up that fake image of Jesus, you're going to get judged for that, because it's not him. That isn't him. It's a misrepresentation of him. It's not even his biblical description. There should be no images created, because none of us have in the flesh seen him. None of us, not this generation. None of us. Maybe some have had, we've had some vision, we have some dreams, and he may appear a certain way in a vision, in a dream. I stand as a testimony to that. However, I also understood that's not him. That's not actually how he looks glorified. He came palatable to me. And I understood that. Okay? But a lot of you content creators on here, you are quick to put up an image it's not him. You're misrepresenting him, and you're misrepresenting Christianity as a whole when you do that. Because people who feel a certain way or have experienced certain things in their life will reject that. And they'll be like, see, that's not for us. And y'all don't even care. And you keep doing it. You're going to be judged for that. God is not pleased with that. He's not pleased that you're insensitive and you're lying, because that's not him. That's not him. So anyway, then he says, so we're talking, and again, I'm giving a defense for the faith, because he begins to talk about, that the books were removed out of the Bible. And then we go into the Torah, which for those who don't know, and I'm going to give some knowledge to you right now, but these are things you should know, okay? So study to show yourself approved. But the Torah is what Christians call the Old Testament, okay? It is called, but it is the Torah. That is what you read. You actually read the Torah, okay? When we're dealing with the first books of the Bible. Those are the books of Moses, considered like the books of Moses. So, and yes, Christians, we have it too. We just call it the New Testament. We just call it we call it the Old Testament. Excuse me, we call it the Old Testament. So, anyway, he brings up how certain books, not the Old Testament, he does bring up the Torah, but then he also brings up how certain books were left out of the New Testament. And I say, yes, certain books were not canonized. This is correct. And then he's talking about, he's thinking, I don't know what those other books are. I'm like, I know what the other books are. Maccabees. I start naming them off, right? And he's like, once again, I met with silence because he's talking to someone ignorant. And I have to show him, no, I know my stuff. And that's where we have to be. We have to be knowledgeable, okay? I know some people take it to the extreme and they become, they try to replace spirit for intellect. And we know that you can't do that because we understand things of the spirit cannot be understood by the carnal, by intellect. We understand that, but we're talking about specific things of the spirit, okay? Like people don't understand praying in the spirit. They don't get that because it's not a natural thing to do. This is through the Holy Spirit. People don't understand healings through the Holy Spirit. They don't understand those things. That's what God's saying. Things of the spirit seem as foolishness to men, right? But then there is also still that flip side where God says, defend the faith, right? Be knowledgeable, okay? So you can't also be anti-intellectual. You can't also be an anti-intellectual. Too many people think that Christians are dumb. Too many people think that Christians are dumb, think that Christians are anti-intellectual, think that Christians don't study, don't know anything, but you got to. And don't fear going off to another direction. The only way that happens, people who end up leaving Christianity after they've gone to seminary and stuff like that is very suspect to me. I personally think that, and I've said this in another video when I was talking about seminary. Now, I know some people have gone through seminary and they're, they still come out and they're still good, but a lot of people don't. So a lot of people come out and they don't believe anymore. And I think that, to me, this is my personal opinion, I think there's something with the seminary. That's what I think. I think it's another spirit. Some of these seminary schools, I think it's another spirit that's behind it. And I think that you need to do your research and say, where is this? Okay, who started this? What was their beliefs? Just to make sure that you're not in an institution that really is intending to strip your faith. Because if that's the case, you're wide open to it, right? You're wide open to it. So anyway, yeah, so as me and this young man are talking and stuff like that, and then then we start talking about, okay, when we did talk about the Torah, because now we want to get into how it's translated into English. King James is the one who added stuff or took stuff out, and it's like, no, that's not true. So now I have to, that isn't true. What you're saying is not true. I said, as simple as this, the Torah is written in Hebrew. English speaking people can't read Hebrew. It got translated. The king had the authority to do that. Simple as that. It's just that simple. He didn't add anything to the Bible. He didn't take anything from he didn't write the Bible. I remember hearing people say he wrote the Bible. Do you know how ignorant you sound to say King James wrote the Bible? That's the kind of ignorance that should be quickly debunked. Quickly. King James didn't write the Bible. It's thousands and thousands of years older than him. He had it translated from the original text, which is Hebrew. So we have to go into that. I said, what are you talking? The Torah is Hebrew. It has to be translated. And then we go on to the New Testament. I said, that's Aramaic. It had to be translated. I said, so you guys can't keep using this same argument over and over. Oh, this is a white man's religion. Oh, European this, European that, King James this, King James that. When it didn't start there, you can't do it anymore. You can't do it anymore. It's just not, your argument is weak now because it's literally not even true. It's literally not even true. But like I said, then you got these people that keep pushing that false image out there, right? But anyway, yeah. So it was just kind of a, how do I say it? I'm gonna defend the faith. I'm gonna stand 10 toes down at all times. But by the same token, it's tiring. It's kind of like, a lot of this fight comes from other so-called Christians creating this image out there. Number one, not being knowledgeable themselves. Number two, just looking ignorant. Number three, so then other people got to come up behind it and clean it up, And it just has to stop. It has to stop. We have to know what we're talking about. We have to come in a spirit of peace and a spirit of love and gentleness, and not, don't be like ready to go to war. Don't do that, because some people get real angry. They become like, and they're ready to fight. And it's like, no, 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 no. Listen to these people and their complaints and where their perception is and why they feel the way they feel. Does it get irritating? Of course it does, especially when they don't even know what they're talking about. Then it's like even more so irritating, because now it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, but you're acting like you're speaking facts, you know. But just, to make a long story short, that's we have to fill ourselves up with knowledge, know more. It's okay to understand what different religions are teaching. You need to know that stuff. You need to know so that you have a proper understanding of them when you are confronted by them. Okay? When you are confronted by them. So basically, the conversation ended, and he just didn't even want to go back into it, because he could see, oh, she ain't no easy kill, right? Like, oh. So at least that's what I think, because he got silent. So, yeah. Anyway, talk to y'all soon. I need to get ready for this plane. God bless you. What do I think of North Carolina? I was really kind of upset when I first came, because it was raining, and I was like, are you kidding me? But then it got kind of hot and humid, and I like the weather. Those houses, like I said, I saw some beautiful houses. I don't know. I'll say this. The way people were hyping it up, I wasn't feeling it like that. But one place where I felt like, because I wanted the feeling of home, right? Because some of my family's going to move out to North Carolina. That's why I'm checking it out. So, I want the feeling of home. I want, like, when I walk off the plane, when I walk through the airport, when I'm just like, this is it. This is it. That's what I wanted to feel, and I didn't feel that. I felt like that when I got off the plane and went to Florida, like many years ago. And because I had plans to move to Florida, I never did. But I remember just walking off the plane and just being like, yeah, like, this is it. So anyway, yes, may God bless you abundantly. Keep me in your prayers like I keep you in my prayers. And I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.